Love is one of the scariest battles we face, and in Dandadan, Okarun shows us that even when anxiety feels overwhelming, it's possible to grow into someone confident, secure, and ready for love. But how does he do it? And how can you do the same? Hey, I'm Moon. Today we're diving into Okarun's journey, the fears he faces, how he builds confidence, and the lessons you can take to tackle your anxieties and strengthen your relationships. Before we get started, I have to say this. Spoiler alert! Don't say I didn't warn you. Ikea. Be like Okarun, turning anxiety into confidence and love. Anxiety and love can impair in many ways. Overthinking, fear of rejection, or trying too hard to prove your worth. Sound familiar? Okarun's journey starts with these same struggles. After finishing their battle in the tunnel, Okarun assumes Momo will ignore him, believing he's not worth her attention anymore. This fear stems from his own self-doubt. He can't imagine someone seeing value in him beyond the moment. Anxiety has a way of distorting how we see ourselves and others. For Okarun, this means replaying every moment of the battle, magnifying his perceived flaws, and minimizing his successes. It convinces him that his fears are facts, but the truth is Momo isn't ignoring Okarun or judging him. Her casual interactions show how she values him as a partner and a friend, proving that his fears are more about his own insecurities than reality. Throughout the series, Okarun's anxiety manifests in how he overthinks his interactions with Momo, whether he's nervously replaying conversations or worrying about how he's being perceived. These moments show how anxiety can take over your thoughts, making even the smallest interactions feel overwhelming. It's not just what he's thinking, it's how his anxiety shows in his body language. Fiddling with his hair, adjusting his glasses, and avoiding direct eye contact become physical expressions of his internal struggle. These are signs that Okarun is caught in a loop of overthinking, a cycle many of us know too well. Later, when Momo's childhood friend Gigi moves in, Okarun feels compelled to compete for her attention. His attempts to assert himself highlight his fear of losing her, even though Momo hasn't given any reason to feel threatened. Anxiety often makes us feel like we're not enough, especially when we compare ourselves to others. For Okarun, Gigi's arrival triggers the fear of inadequacy. Instead of seeing Gigi as a friend, Okarun sees him as competition, leading him to overcompensate in ways that only deepen his self-doubt. But what Okarun doesn't realize is that his actions aren't necessary. Momo values him for who he is, not for how he stacks up against someone else. His anxiety clouds this reality, creating a problem where none exists. Lesson 1. Recognize your fears. They're smaller than you think. One of Okarun's greatest strengths is his passion. Despite his insecurities, when he talks about UFOs or the supernatural, we see a completely different side of him. Confident, bold, and unafraid to speak his mind. Okarun's passion also helps him forge a deeper connection with Momo. Through their shared experiences, whether it's battling ghosts or exploring mysteries, they develop a mutual appreciation for each other's strengths. Momo sees Okarun's bravery and resourcefulness while he learns to trust her steady presence. These moments show how being true to yourself can inspire others to see your value, even when you struggle to see it in yourself. His passions don't just help him connect with Momo, they also give him strength in moments of fear, whether it's drawing on his knowledge to face supernatural threats or thinking creatively to solve problems. His love for UFOs and the unknown turns his anxiety into a driving force. This is a reminder that what makes you unique, your quirks, hobbies, or interests, can be your greatest asset. When you lean into what excites you, it not only helps you stand out, but also builds your confidence in moments when you need it the most. Lesson 2. Lean into your passions. They help build confidence and connection. And that idea, that our passions can help us connect with others, resonates deeply with me. One of my biggest passions is music. I love curating playlists that capture different moods and tell stories, much like Okarun's passions do for him. So if you're interested, you can check out my playlist and let me know what you think in Discord. They're linked in the description below. I'd love to hear your thoughts or even your own music recommendations. But let's get back to Okarun. One of the hardest parts of dealing with anxiety is overcoming the cycle of overthinking. For Okarun, this cycle shows up time and time again. Hesitating in battles, replaying conversations with Momo in his head, or doubting whether his actions are enough. But here's the key. Every time Okarun takes action, even when he's scared, it breaks that cycle. Instead of staying trapped in his thoughts, he focuses on the present moment and what he can do. Taking action benefits Okarun in 3 major ways. Every time he steps up, whether it's protecting Momo in a fight or showing up for her in small ways, he proves to himself that he's capable. These small victories add up, turning his self-doubt into confidence. Confidence doesn't come all at once. It's something you build piece by piece. Okarun's story shows us that no matter how small the step, each action adds up to something greater. When Okarun acts, it shows Momo that he's reliable and willing to stand by her side, even when things are tough. This trust strengthens their bond and helps them feel more secure in their relationship. Relationships thrive on trust, and trust is built through consistent action. Every time Okarun steps up for Momo, he strengthens their connection, helping him feel more secure in their relationship. Anxiety thrives on inaction, but action forces Okarun out of his head and into the present. By focusing on what he can do in the moment instead of what might go wrong, he frees himself from the grip of overthinking. These moments remind us that progress doesn't require perfection. It only requires that you take the next step. For Okarun, every action helps him grow stronger and more secure of himself. Lesson 3. Confidence grows when you focus on small, meaningful actions. One of the most pivotal moments in Okarun's journey is when he chooses to trust Momo with his vulnerabilities. Anxiety often convinces us to keep our struggles hidden, believing that revealing them will only bring judgment or rejection. However, in this moment, Okarun chooses to trust Momo, revealing the truth about Ida's attempted kiss and his secret training. His decision isn't just about confessing a mishap, it's about shedding the layers of doubt and fear that typically keeps us isolated. This marks a key turning point in his emotional growth, showing us that trust is the first step towards building meaningful connections. Momo's reaction is genuine and human, raw, open, and deeply accepting. She doesn't retreat into skepticism or detachment, but instead listens with empathy. Her ability to hear Okarun's confession without judgment or defensiveness not only demonstrates emotional maturity, but it also highlights the importance of creating a space where vulnerability is met with acceptance. In a world that often teaches us to hide our flaws, Momo shows Okarun that honesty doesn't have to be frightening. It's a bridge, not a barrier. In this moment, Okarun learns something profound. Vulnerability doesn't push people away, it draws them closer. When Momo listens without judgment and responds with understanding, their bond deepens. The fear of being seen as weak or insufficient is replaced by a newfound confidence, one built on the trust that when we show our true selves, the right people will accept us. This exchange is more than a mere conversation. It's a profound exchange of mutual respect and care that will strengthen their relationship in ways Okarun never imagined. Vulnerability often feels like a risk, especially when anxiety whispers doubts about how we'll be received. But what Okarun teaches us is that embracing our vulnerabilities is actually an act of strength. His willingness to share his insecurities despite the fear of judgment transforms a moment of potential rejection into an opportunity for connection. Okarun's ability to be open with Momo shows that vulnerability isn't a sign of weakness, it's a foundation for growth. Through this experience, Okarun doesn't just grow closer to Momo, he begins to rebuild his own sense of self-worth. He learns that being honest with others isn't just about exposing your flaws. It's about embracing your true self and trusting that the right people will see your worth, flaws and all. Lesson 4. Vulnerability transforms fear into connection. Okarun's story in Dandadan shows that anxiety in love isn't the end. It's a challenge we can overcome. By leaning into his passions, acting despite his fears, and trusting in Momo, Okarun turns his insecurities into strengths. You can do the same. Recognize your anxieties, lean into what makes you unique, and trust the people who show up for you. You can grow into the hero of your own love story and be like Okarun.